All right, everyone, we should be live. We'll have to make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. I've got some great news today lined up here. Oh boy, with the Project Veritas release follow-up. That definitely steals the show. And I think I swapped one of these stories out for a different one. Yes, it was indeed. I swapped out the Biden documents one because I've been covering that anyway, and it's like there's no huge new updates for that. So I swapped that out actually for a story about Ron DeSantis potentially considering a bill in Florida, which is making its way through the legislature there. We'll see what happens. Let's make sure we're actually live. And the cat is perturbing, just to be clear. So hopefully the cat will, stop perturbing. Clankin in Williston, Vermont at Burlington Beer Company, says Vermont Power over on Rumble. Nice. Not much of a beer person myself. Some people use beer for they use it in like stews and shit like that. I never understood it. Like when I made the Irish stew, I didn't add any Guinness to it, which makes it less authentic maybe, but no, I don't really like the taste of most beer. Beer is something for, it's a hot day and you get a Foster's or a Bud Light or something like that, but not hugely into it. More of a wine person if I'm drinking anything at all that's alcoholic. One thing I don't understand is alcohol-free alcohol, by the way, because it's like it kind of defeats the purpose. You're not exactly using it for the flavor now, are you? Generally. Anyway, we'll get right to it. First and foremost, I have a major announcement here. Yes, the Grifties were the other day. I did indeed win an award. I won a Grifty. I'm very, very happy about that. This will be going on display. I'm thinking like between this and also coming soon, the Rumble Award for 100K there. Congrats to everyone on Rumble. Clankdom has become big there as well. I'm probably going to have to get a trophy case because not only, so I've got a Grifty, I've got the Odyssey Award, which I need to have framed. That's a paper. And it came with a flash drive with LBC on it. I'll put that on display. Then there's the BitChute Award. Well, technically several of them. There's the YouTube play button and then the Rumble Award. So it's getting pretty good, actually. Not exactly an experience that I had when I was younger. So yeah, it came with a stand, but the stand actually got shattered on the way here. So I don't have anything flat to put it on other than literally propping it up. Clearly, it needs to have a base made for it. I'll get to that as well. I am the People's Choice for the Grifty Awards, the 3rd annual Grifty Awards. The Cats, meanwhile, didn't win an award because they're losers. They didn't work hard enough. They didn't share out the poll enough. So, clearly they had to lose. Dark World XL. Hey, Sticks, have you heard about the 1950s mouse utopia experiment? Yes, I've actually talked about it before. The female mice became more masculine and pushed out their children, and the male mice became more feminine. Sounds like our society. Yes, actually, on the Rational Wiki article defaming me, they point out my mention of that particular thing. I do believe that it explains what's happening currently with overpopulation. I don't mean overpopulation in the sense that the WEF talks about it. I mean in the sense of comfort capacity. See, carrying capacity and comfort capacity aren't the same. Carrying capacity is the maximum number of in this case, humans that can inhabit the world and they can have food, a reasonable accommodation to live in, et cetera, et cetera. Comfort capacity is when you want more dignity. Which is important to humans. It's not important to mice. I think, if anything, this would be more pronounced in the human species. I think it has to do with pheromones, specifically sex pheromones, which people in urban settings are constantly bombarded with. Nature is effectively telling them that there are too many life forms in that area, and it starts to decrease the testosterone of males, the sperm count. It starts to decrease the femininity of women. Now, it's more pronounced in urban areas for a reason. You don't really see it in rural third world countries now, do you? Anyway, yeah. So I won a Grifty Award. Main news of the day, of course. I am actually very happy about that. I realize that it's kind of a chucklehead award show. The Quartering, by the way, had to announce that I had won one when he himself had been nominated for that same award. So I'm very happy. I look forward to next year and trying to get another Grifty or maybe 2, depending on whether the cats qualify. Maybe they'll change the rules that only humans qualify. So I am the people's choice. And of course, you are some of those people, many of you participating in the Grifties polls. I do thank you for that because it actually is, I'm not going to lie, it actually is pretty cool. It's a piece of internet history and it's now behind me. I'm happy about it, yes. I'm going to get a trophy case, put some cool shit in there. Of course, I've got other things that people have sent me. You know, like I've got the little stick man back here, of course, from G-Sticks, among others. Did Rackets win anything? I'm not sure. I'm going to have to watch the entire Grifty Award show, actually. I didn't get a chance to watch it the other day when it first went up. So maybe I can get in the 4th annual Grifties, maybe we can sweep everything. Well, I'll be the ultimate grifter. I will single-mindedly focus on the Grifty polls and continue to coerce other people to vote in them and then nominate myself for 5 or 6 of them just as a joke. That'd be pretty funny. Next news story, and the first real news story, let's face it. Pfizer director assaults James O'Keefe and Veritas staff, destroys iPad showing undercover recordings. Yes, a Pfizer, sub-director. He's not the actual CEO of this company. And because this live stream is on YouTube, I do have to mince my words somewhat in what I can actually say about this. They've got this up on YouTube, but I don't want no problems. I don't want no trouble. And I'll have to make a Rumble exclusive with regards to this particular issue as well. I'll probably be covering it tomorrow in more detail in a New Tech exclusive, which is why you should be watching me on some combination of BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, or Minds.com. If you have not yet subscribed to me on one or more of those platforms, to those of you watching on YouTube, I strongly suggest you do so. You get an extra video every single day. What's not to love about this? Anyway, what happened here is they went undercover and they effectively catfished one of the semi-upper level employees at Pfizer. Again, he's not the CEO or anything like that. And he said things on tape that were maybe outside of the mainstream scientific consensus with regards to their development of their mRNA vaccine, as well as to COVID in general. Now, I can't elaborate any further because this is a YouTube live stream. Again, you should follow me on one of those other sites if you want the full skinny on this story. And you should subscribe to them too, not just on YouTube, because I think they were banned for a while there. They're back now, but they keep getting harassed by the lamestream tech. The follow-up, though, is much more funny. The original video is basically, hey, he is saying things that are not exactly publicly known. Now, we mostly know this. Again, I have to be a little bit hazy here with how I describe it. Most of us understand the honkening that went on in the development and deployment of this particular medical apparatus. Most of us know that. That's number one. Number two, the follow-up has him going completely goddamn insane. And I'm thinking to myself, if indeed the things that you said were not unpalatable, you wouldn't assume that if they became public that they'd be a problem. Why are you literally attacking people? And he literally attacks James O'Keefe and several others here. You're attacking them. You're destroying property. The cops got called. You're going crazy and basically doing like what some of the people on like To Catch a Predator did when they're confronted by Chris Hansen. No, my God, you've got it wrong. Oh my God, I was just here for the hamburgers. Basically, he makes the excuse that he was just lying to impress a date. Of course, it was a Project Veritas employee pretending to, just be some random chick. And she's like, oh, you work for the pharma company. Oh, my goodness, that's hot. Basically, you can take me to bed later. Give me the true skinny on what you're talking about. It's hilarious. Just fucking watch it. This clip is about 10 minutes long, so it won't take you long, but I strongly, strongly encourage you to watch it. You should follow Project Veritas on sites other than YouTube, though. I have a feeling they're going to take this particular one down. I think there's going to be some pressure from the company with regards to it. And yes, people are pointing out it was a dude. He's a homosexual. So the reaction basically makes me more suspicious than the original video, because I could imagine, you've got a date lined up with someone. And you're basically talking out your ass to try to impress them. Not something that most of us would do, but at least I can kind of understand why someone would do it. Like, you're trying to get a relationship going, or in this case, you're just trying to get your booty judge truncated or something like that. You're trying to get a train run and, the train's not on time yet. You got to put in some effort. I can kind of understand the concept, but then when you immediately trot that out as the excuse when you're confronted and you go crazy, you're rolling around on the floor, you're screaming, you're calling the cops, getting all shaky and fucked up. The only real excuse you could give for the reaction is he's afraid of losing his job. Oh my God, I told things I was not supposed to tell, and they got me on video. They have my name and contact info and everything else. I'm going to get shit canned at my pharma company and lose my 6-figure salary. Yeah, that's basically the only defense at this point. Watch it for yourself. Pretty funny. My Nibba, PM Annalena Baerbock declared Germany is at war with Russia. When will we all admit we are in World War III against Russia? We can't pretend anymore. Yeah, effectively, Germany is in a conflict with the Russians at this point, and it should bother more people. People are being very flippant about it, as I explained this morning with the video about Trump and his statement on Truth Social. People are being way, way too goddamn nonchalant about a war with a nuclear power. Bara, thoughts on Vermont allowing non-citizens to vote? That is only in local elections. I oppose it. Unfortunately, the Vermont State Supreme Court tends to act with total impunity and never gets checked by anybody else. Like even on guns, that has stood up to the test of time now for years. There are anti-gun laws there, and apparently there's no actual counter to it. Ozzy's Robots, I'm biased, but Fluck Pfizer, congrats on the grifty. Yes, thank you. King of Biltong, morning sticks. Thanks for the shout out a few days ago. I appreciate someone actually paying attention to their followers. By the way, I did DM you on Twitter as requested. Clank, yes, I accepted. I didn't have time to actually respond. My apologies. I will try to get to that later. But when you have an infant, sometimes things can be a little bit difficult. Darius Harvey sent 1999 without a comment. Thank you very much. And over on Rumble, Rel 21,000. I suspect the Cats threw the contest so you wouldn't feel bad. Yeah, they clearly would have won if they had put in more effort. They were trying to make me feel good. Exactly. Brodus Sattva. I am picking up my 1937 German car 98K from the shop. All matching serial numbers. Great finish. More guns need to be made in 8mm. Interesting. 1937, not the greatest year in world history, though, all things considered. You were in the Great Depression. They called it a depression for a reason. I have a feeling you'd be sad, too. You didn't even have the internet to shitpost on at the time. Next news story, and by the way, this comes with a qualifier. We'll do a little bit of light poll analysis here because, that's what I'm paid to do. Flip, Trump now leads 2024. Biden support shrinks. Yes, in one particular poll, Trump, this is Emerson, so it tends to be fairly reliable. Trump is now ahead of Joe Biden in the general polling. This comes with two qualifiers, technically three. The first is it's a single poll. Some others show Biden ahead. And this is the case versus DeSantis. It's also the case when Harris is involved. Harris does far more poorly against both of these individuals, though she might legitimately lose against Mike Pence, considering her support level. Not that he's going to win the nomination, but I mean, in bizarro world, Mike Pence is the GOP candidate. You could literally see President Mike Pence if Kamala happened to be the candidate. I have a feeling that she's being pressured to stand down alongside Biden as well. She's tied with the admin. About the only one that gets a pass is Buttigieg. Another qualifier, of course, is that we're way out from the election. And the third is that Trump actually is not in the lead in one very important primary, which is New Hampshire. DeSantis is in the lead there. He was narrowly in the lead already before in the last poll. He has maintained and even grown that lead. And we'll be talking about DeSantis later based on the free speech issue that's being considered in Florida. That'll be important. That's why I swapped out the Biden doc story for it, because it's transcendentally important, especially in the lead up to 24. Here's the thing. It's apples to oranges to compare Buttigieg's lead over Biden on one hand in New Hampshire specifically with DeSantis' lead over Trump in New Hampshire for the GOP primaries, and I'll tell you why. Donald Trump is an incumbent, technical incumbent. A large number of states are run at the lower level by people that are MAGA. If Donald Trump is running, and he is, because of that technical incumbency, a number of states, we don't know the number, but I guarantee some, will suspend their primaries altogether and simply allocate their delegates to Trump in order to prevent a messy primary. That includes even if there is a viable other candidate like DeSantis would be. Joe Biden is unlikely to be the candidate in 2024. He is not likely to run again. If he does, he's nuts. And if he does, by the way, he will end up being primaried by others. Maybe not Buttigieg, who would be he would pay Buttigieg off to endorse him because Buttigieg is number one in some of these starting states. The Dems also pushed their primaries around so that South Carolina goes first. Biden actually has an advantage there. So it is apples to oranges. If the GOP maintains its normal primary structure and starts first with Iowa and New Hampshire and then on to South Carolina and Nevada, but the Dems switch to South Carolina and Nevada being first, it would give you two entirely different reads of the country. It could get very, very messy in 2024 just because of that. But I don't think, in the absence of Biden, that any Dem primary would suspend and simply allocate delegates. There'd be no incumbent. And in the case that Biden is the incumbent, he's not going to be treated the same as Donald Trump. The man will not be able to campaign. He can barely get across the room at this point. He is elderly, literally explicitly elderly. Trump's on that line himself. He acts like a spring chicken compared to Joe Biden. So, yeah. Lots of fun is going to be had over the course of the next couple of years. Eric Basil, Hunter boofs his drugs. Ozzy's Robots, we have confirmation that a company in the best case scenario could potentially cause a global pandemic to sell a product and people aren't rioting? What the fuck? Semi-agreed. Matt Perkins, Sticks, did you happen to see the Rasmussen poll showing Mike Lindell ahead of the RNC chairman? Also, how do we beat them at the mailbox? I wouldn't support Mike Lindell for RNC chairman. I don't think that that Ronna McDaniel should get the job, but that doesn't mean switching out for Mike Lindell. He's a grifter. He is an egotist who is entirely self-serving. Yes, I realize. Well, he spoke out for Trump and then he got banned from a bunch of stores. Okay, he's still trying to sell his product. He's getting attention by doing this. He doesn't have any viability. He's not going to be the RNC chairperson. Funeral Man 04. Hey, Sticks, thoughts on DW trying to poach Crowder employees? Not a surprise, but that's the cutthroat way of business. Yeah, that's one of the less dishonest things they'll be doing lately. Next news story. Oh, yeah, big coincidence here, by the way. Pelosi slammed for selling Google stocks right before DOJ announced antitrust suit. Convenient timing. One Republican lawmaker commented that the trade tells you exactly how she became worth $200+ million on a government salary. Yeah, obviously. Let me ask you this. You're rich. You're invested in a bunch of stocks and shit. And you get forewarning weeks or months beforehand that a stock might be endangered because of some geopolitical thing that's going on. A war, a sting operation, somebody, the founder is in poor health and you get a report and you know that this person's going to die and you're getting this classified intel because it might cause a shakeup at the company and it makes arms for the U.S. military or something like that. Why would you not, in such a case, command your spouse to sell the shares? This is all through Paul Pelosi. And this is why there's a problem with Hawley's move. Trying to ban members of Congress from dabbling in stocks is a great idea, but you have to extend it beyond just them. You have to extend it to their immediate family. Biden uses his son, Pelosi uses her husband, etc., especially with spouses because they can't be compelled to testify against each other. There is currently nothing in the law that says that Nancy Pelosi cannot remark in private to Paul Pelosi, hey, there might be an antitrust suit against Google in the coming weeks, and he's holding stock, but it's in his name and he's a private citizen. There is no law against him using that as a reason to sell the stock. And there's no way to prove that that conversation happened unless it was electronic anyway. It's a huge problem. It shouldn't be happening. And it involved an amount between $500,001 and $1 million and yielded capital gains of more than $200, although it's unclear how large the profit was. but they dumped it because they were worried that Google was going to get curb stomped. It's clear that this was insider trading. It should be looked into, but you're not going to find any evidence of that, by the way. But do your due diligence. Definitely look into it, but don't expect there to be any smoke or fire that you find, because they would have done it informally, unless they're crazy. And Nancy Pelosi didn't make several $100 million on a six-figure salary by being crazy. She may be demented. She may be very unethical and evil, but she's not that kind of crazy, if you know what I'm saying. Comic Toby 420, Gavin Newsom 2024 for president. Yeah, it'd be funny if he ran, since he's at 1% in the New Hampshire polling. Kristen Thurber, thanks for all you do. You've helped me red pill friends and family. Your humor helps bring levity. Peace out. Peace in. Jack Nolf, going to the Netherlands in 6 weeks. First time out of the country. What would you recommend me and my family of 3 do and see? Can't wait for a conversation between Ian Crossland. Well, you'll obviously see Amsterdam. Don't bother going to the red light like the core district, because it's overrated and extremely crowded. Go to the east side of Amsterdam, or to Sloterdijk over on the west. Like the Old West / Sloterdijk area has a lot of cool stuff. Museums, parks, and that sort of thing. If you're more into food, go to the east side, definitely, because you get all the ethnic food, Surinamese food, Indonesian, Indian, etc. You should go to a regular Dutch restaurant as well. While you're there, get some bitterballen, and then go and take a day trip through Friesland. If you want to see the farms and the windmills and stuff like that, you're not going to see as much of that in the Amsterdam area. Go out of Amsterdam, go to the middle of nowhere. Franeker up in Friesland is really scenic. A lot of history there. Buildings from the 1600s and shit like that. You'll see people fishing off of the side of the canals and stuff like that. It's nuts. It's really great. Can't remember the name of the restaurant, Franeker. We went to several of them. One of them, I can't remember the name because it was a while ago. It was absolutely delicious. It was, Matt Perkins, do you think our overlords have been getting saline instead of honk honk shots? Doesn't seem weird they've had no adverse reactions. Well, there aren't many overlords, so the sample size is too small. Walter Deadman, what if Mike Lindell's pillows, slippers, and sheets are truly the answer to world peace? He did a great deal on cotton for his sheet sticks. Yeah, exactly. I mean, his main forte is in business and in branding himself. It's not in governance or anything like that. If you want someone like Mike Lindell to run the strategy of the RNC, you're nuts. Aussie's Robots. Trump needs to articulate a sane COVID policy. Yeah, although I would argue that he already has. Hey, it's available. You can get it if you want. That's it. That's the policy. Eric Basil. Think Jordan got some of the undercover guy off the other undercover guy. Maybe. That's possible. Batman. Sticks. What's your favorite part of living in the Netherlands? Well, the availability of interesting food is definitely high on the list. I mean, the obvious thing is I'm here with my wife, so I enjoy that fact. I'm here with my child. It's scenic. It's rather peaceful for the most part. I really like the Netherlands overall. One thing that I do dislike is that it's impossible to get a firearm. You know, I'd like to go plinking at some point. I guess I have to go over to Germany. Oh, yes, this is the DeSantis story. This is an important one. So pay attention, everyone. All of you clankers out there. There's almost 3,000 people actually watching on YouTube, almost 2,000 over on Rumble. Much more than yesterday. I think it has to do with the time difference. Breaking, Republican lawmakers in Florida have proposed a bill that would make anti-Semitic acts hate crimes. Now, some of these, obviously they are, but we're going to parse through this because there's a little bit of nuance here that disturbs me. Flyers saying, don't know if I can say that on YouTube, for instance, would constitute a third-degree felony. So we're not talking about, hey, you done goofed, you're spending a month in the gulag over here. We're talking about felony charges. So we're talking loss of ability to vote. We're talking loss of ability to own a firearm, things like that. So the litmus test for whether a law is constitutional or not really should be exaggerated and amplified if it's felony charges as opposed to a misdemeanor. The latter, at the very least, you're not talking about permanent deprivation of any real liberty. Would Ron DeSantis approve this bill? And it seems like a lot of people suspect that he would approve of this bill. Now, here's what's in the bill that is not a problem. Stalking or harassing based on religious or ethnic heritage. And of course, this individual is using Jews as an example, but it would apply to everyone other than white straight male Christians, obviously. I don't know about pagans. Are we protected under US law anymore? I'm not exactly sure. I think it has to do with your particular political views. What pagan coven are you from? Stalking or harassing, so that makes sense. I mean, you know, you're following someone around, slinging slurs at them in a public place. They have the right to be left alone. That makes sense. Damaging a religious cemetery. I'm not sure why secular cemeteries with religious iconography wouldn't be included here, but we'll get past that. Or memorial, which would apply, by the way, to publicly posted statues in general. Religious schools or community and private property. That makes sense. Like, nobody wants your fucking billets posted on the side of their house, for example. Et cetera, et cetera. Those are all fine. I don't believe in the concept of applying aggravation for a hate crime, because it doesn't really matter. If you vandalize something, does it really matter what the motivation was? The vandalism is the same. It should depend on the degree of the vandalism. There's a difference between making an inscription in chalk that can be easily wiped off versus one in paint or something that requires some scrubbing. That should be the only aggravating factor for vandalism and things of that particular nature. But there's one part here that is disturbing. Flyer distributions. So, for example, if you were standing on the street corner handing out pieces of paper or posting up billets in an area where billets are allowed to be posted, and they contain a message that the government of the state of Florida decides ultimately arbitrarily, and until adjudicated in a court of law, adjudicated rather, I got caught on that one before, you'd be detained. You would be charged with a third-degree felony. How is that not an abridgment of the First Amendment? And specifically in the case of billeting, the right of the press, not the right of free speech. It's not speech. You're handing out a piece of paper. You're not speaking to anyone. Well, you may speak to them, but the paper is not part of that. It's part of the right to free expression and the free press. The press explicitly printing papers. That's explicitly what the founders suggested when they talk about the freedom of the press. If you do not have the right to therefore press or print out in this modern era pieces of paper with an objectionable message and put them on parody, as long as they are not obscene, a little kid might see it or something, and post them in an area where you're allowed to otherwise post them, hand them out to consenting adults who choose to take the flyer. They don't have to take it if they don't want to. That's an abridgment of the First Amendment. If Ron DeSantis signs this without pointing that out and having that particular part of the bill stripped away, then I can say I would drop DeSantis, because it would be an obvious infringement of the First Amendment. It would cross a red line for me. I engage in the activity of the press every day. I'm doing it right now. I'm not talking to any of you. I'm talking to my computer. You're 100,000 miles away. You are participating with a bunch of zeros and ones right now that re-encode on your computer, and you can therefore view what my image and hear what I'm saying. But I'm not in the room with you. I'm not having a conversation with you. I'm sorry, by the way. I'm engaging in an activity of the press. How would this, by the way, be different from the state of Florida saying if you post this material online, it's a third-degree felony? Well, nobody's being forced to connect to your video, to interact with your website, to interact with your blog post. It's a right of the press. It's part of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. It would be a bridge too far if Ron DeSantis weren't to point that out, have that part parsed out before signing. If he signs this bill, to be clear, I will become anti-Ron DeSantis. Mr. Jack, hey Sticks, here's $5. I've given up on Twitter, have yet to get amnesty. Found out there's an app that you can stream as your own waifu and husbando. Okay. Comic Toby 420, do they still have red light in Germany? Ladies, I don't know if there's prostitution legal in Germany. I mean, I don't solicit prostitutes, so I'm not exactly up and up on the news on that. Musically Assured Destruction. Colonel Douglas McGregor has great analysis on the Ukraine invasion. Look him up if you haven't already. Sounds good. Sparky, cat food and diaper money. Thank you. Can always use more about that. By the way, to Island Up North, I already addressed the quartering Twitter ban yesterday in my live stream, along with Venti, banned for the same thing, and Nick Fuentes banned for separate reasons. Somebody there is claiming that I shadow banned them. I don't even have that ability. Everyone can post whatever they want on my YouTube. Or on Rumble, by the way. On Rumble, it's even more free. Nobody gives a shit. Go ahead and say racial slurs. I don't care. The Agao faces. Little reminder that Big Pharma still wins on a socialized healthcare even by providing your self-deletion medicine. Yeah, socialism kills. We've seen this many times throughout history. Corto Maltese, I just lost my cat this week. Had a tumor on his jaw and couldn't eat. Went downhill. Rest in peace, Mars. You are my best buddy. I really hope I'll see you again someday. And you will, probably in a different form. Sounds like a nice kitty. And so rest in peace to Mars. Always hard to lose a pet, especially a cat because they're the best. Had one cat, she died in my arms, actually, so... Not the most fun time. Her name was Cleopatra. That was years ago. Black tears are red over on Rumble. Problem is, multiple Supreme Court cases have said speech meant to offend is protected under the first. That includes hate speech only when violence occurs. Is it no longer protected? Yes, essentially. And so it explicitly violates the First Amendment, which is why DeSantis shouldn't even consider signing it. They're going to try to force him to, though. If he doesn't sign it, they'll say that he hates Jews or that he hates black people. He hates BIPOC, essentially. Well, look at this Nazi. He wants people to be putting up swastikas on the synagogue. Well, parse that part out of the bill and you can protect the synagogue while acknowledging that people have the right to post billets in public and hand them out on the street corner. It's public property. You have as much right as anyone else to stand there as long as you're not impeding anyone, threatening anyone, or doing anything otherwise unlawful to hand out flyers. Of course you do. What's the difference between handing out a flyer for use coupons to my general store and a political opinion? Literally, political opinions were the ones that were the most needful of being protected in the first place. They were the ones being censored. Cyberbully, thank your lucky stars every day. You're not David Pakman. I thank my lucky stars every day that's become a meme because I get an extra few bucks out of it. I find that thank you, David Pakman, making me money. Driven Lost, your thoughts on that Ruth Bader Ginsburg gold demon statue replacing the Teddy Roosevelt statue in New York City, I think. I don't have many thoughts about that. I don't have any problem with demonic statue, weird statue, or anything like that. It's just they shouldn't have taken Teddy down at the same time. Put up another podium. When a culture starts taking the art down instead of just making more art, that's usually a sad statement. We should be making many more statues. Realistic ones, postmodern ones, woke ones, unwoke ones. We should memorialize more because it's beautiful. It's art. Some people prefer the modern art thing, and some people, like myself, prefer the more like a revolutionary period stuff, and like from the Civil War, bronze casting and stuff like that. Next news story, AP Stylebook really wading into it with this one. And they issued a correction, an apology for this. I'm just going to read you their tweet and you can hear for yourself what's wrong. And we'll be mentioning France in the next article as well. AP Stylebook the other day. We recommend avoiding general and often dehumanizing the labels such as the poor, the mentally ill, the French. I'm sorry, I can't get through it without laughing. The disabled, the college educated, instead use wording such as people with mental illnesses. So people from France, I guess that's the insinuation, and use these descriptions only when clearly relevant. I responded, the legacy media, because clearly I condemn them. It's funny because the French getting lumped in with all of these other labels here. Just totally random. It doesn't even have any connection. And nationality doesn't really have a connection to these others now, does it? They then followed up. This was their cope, and it comes from many hours later. The use of the French in this tweet by AP was inappropriate and has caused unintended offense. Oh boy, someone lost their job the other night. An updated tweet is coming. But they left the initial tweet up, comparing the French to the disabled and the mentally. I'm sorry, but it's too funny for me not to laugh. I think the last time I found something this funny, like last night, I was like, oh, Jesus, was the Chaz Garden or something like that. Yes, Frenching person. Someone who speaks Francais. Snail eaters. The French. They should have done the Canadians or something like that. Fair Frozen 55. Don't use the Associated Press. Yeah, don't use the Associated Press. Exactly. It's a bunch of horse shit. I mean, just look at this shit. It's still there. Silky Johnson. Cats are great. I had an orange squeaky chonker named Linus. I lived with my grandma and they bonded. It was extra painful when he passed. F for Mars. Yeah, I had an orange squeaky chonker named Widget actually as a kid. And the funniest thing about him, massively fat, like his belly would wubber underneath him. Lazy as fuck, would scrounge food off the floor. By the way, he got fat because he had been malnourished at the farm that he was living at, and he was rescued. He was a rescue cat, and so he compensated by eating everything in his sight. But by God, one time there was a mouse in the house, and you wouldn't believe how fast he can go when he was motivated. I thought he was going to have a heart attack just doing it. The mouse would literally try to like bounce off the walls, like do a ninja kick. And the cat would do the same thing. And he weighed 20 fucking goddamn pounds. I didn't know how he even was capable of becoming aerial, but somehow he found a way. Walter Deadman, people with French illnesses. That's French disease. Comic Toby 420. Thoughts about eating canned and frozen foods. I think there's nothing wrong with it, especially if it's home canned, but I prefer fresh generally. It is more convenient, though, in many cases. I would rather use, like, in some cases, it's superior to other, like, you know, frozen peas suck dick, but canned peas are better. I know that's probably an uncommon opinion, but it just happens to be mine. Nat Gas Trucker, $5. Such as the cat. Do not use the labels. The cats. No, say four-legged feline individuals. Cheryl Petrie, 99 cents. Yeah, so don't say the French. It's mocking to French people somehow. It's sort of like, I mean, it reminded me of BIPOC, like the idea of people of color or you know, the BIPOC acronym generally. It's basically just colored people. You've just switched the words around. People of color instead of colored people. What's the fucking goddamn difference? Wokeness is nuts. Trying to tell people, don't you, the mentally ill. Okay, yeah, that's a broad group of different people, but it's a colloquial usage, and the French don't even fit in the disabled. Someone with a disability. Okay, what's the problem with this? Next, this one is not a happy news story because I can tell you what I think is going to happen next, and it doesn't happen to be a good thing. France recalls ambassador, speaking of the French, by the way, and will withdraw military forces from Burkina Faso. For those of you not aware of what Burkina Faso is, it's a small third world African nation. It's located in landlocked Western Africa over near Mali and Ghana and some of these other countries. It's fairly poor. It's had a big problem for years with Islamic terrorism. Even though most of the population, I think, is Islamic anyway, there are groups that keep blowing up old monuments and tombs that were built before Islam, like pagan monuments. They're not fans of archaeology. The Turks have to protect Göbekli Tepe for a reason, harassing people, there's slavery, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what I think unfortunately happens next. When you kick out the international community in a nation that doesn't really get tourism or anything like that, the reigning regime is using the excuse that they want to tackle the terrorists themselves. They just don't want the French around. I have a sneaking goddamn suspicion that you're going to end up with a Rwandan genocide situation and they're about to purge dissidents. It could be a sub-ethnicity. It could be a religious minority bloc or something. They'll use that as a cloak to do it. And without the French soldiers there will be no one to witness them because nobody else is in Burkina Faso other than people who are, I don't know what you'd call people from Burkina Faso, Burkinans or whatever. I have a feeling that the government there is about to cull a bunch of the population, and they just don't want international observers seeing it. We've seen this before. The foreign community gets kicked out and people get brutalized. China did this. China kicked out even legacy media from the Western world prior to sealing people up in their apartments with welding equipment, for example. We've seen it before. Yeah. And the French don't have a choice. Of course, they were there at the will of the government. I feel sorry for people in Burkina Faso. I have a feeling that a lot of you are about to die. So, you know, if I have any clankers that live in central landlocked third world Africa, now might be a good time for a vacation. Just to be clear, Friendly Neighborhood Sawyer, have you any afterlife beliefs and what of suicide? I believe in reincarnation, non-karmic specifically. I've had my own experiences with the spiritual. I'm certainly not anti-spiritual, although I am still anti-religious. I think religion tends to be unhelpful and violent in the world more than anything else. Yes, there are exceptions, but it can be used for that. Political groups can use religion to destroy large numbers of people very easily, and it helps with shit like that. As far as suicide, I think generally people should fight the good fight. And unless there is a compelling reason like, hey, I'm terminal, I'm in pain constantly, there is no cure, I'm going to die anyway. Okay, I believe in assisted suicide in those situations. You're a vegetable or something and you're being tormented every hour of the day because you can't do the things you want to do, something like that. I think that sacrificing oneself is fine too. For instance, you jump in front of someone to block the bullet. Someone you care about, someone, you saved the orphans, but you burned up in the fire. That's fine too. Generally, though, people should attempt to preserve their own life. They should do that because there are other ways through it. I suffered severe depression after my overdose. I had anhedonia, couldn't even feel happy for months at a time. I had to get loaded, number one, and be in just the right mood, number two, in order to even feel something close to comfy for almost a year of my life. I could have offed myself, but I didn't. And now I'm doing this. See, things can get better. It's always darkest before dawn. Try to keep a happy face. I know that's not often possible. Try to work through it. Do something to distract yourself, busy yourself. My best advice to people who are down and out or depressed is to work fucking hard. Take up a new hobby. Do it well. Expect lots of failures, but then eventually you gain your success and you feel a hell of a lot better. Netgas Trucker, the Melaninians. Melaninians. No. Melaninians. I don't know what that refers to. Richie 29. Hey, Sticks, fan since 16. Trump released his education plan. What do you think of his bullet point to have parents elect the principal of their school? Good idea. I'll have to review his video and do coverage of that. By the way, send no more super chats because at some point I've got other things I must do. We covered Burkina Faso, of course. Corto Maltese, if it was anyone else, them kicking the ambassador would be sus, but Frenching persons, not as sus. Yeah. They'd probably rather, I think at this point, maybe they'd rather have the Germans there or something. Musings of a Witch's Path. As an individual from Florida, I'm very excited to start prepping for our veggie garden. The beautiful weather allows us to spend lots of time outdoors. My chickens are fans of yours too. Yeah, chickens. Oh, geez, you must be rich as a lord then if you've got a bunch of chickens. I did fried eggs for the first time last night. By the way, they came out excellent. They were perfect. I didn't expect that they would come out so well. Sort of like with fried chicken. I'm finding out that after my initial hesitance, I'm actually really good at frying things properly. Didn't expect it. Ken, I don't get to catch your live streams often, but I'm glad I did today. I've been depressed lately, and what you said really helped. Yes, go get a new hobby, something preferably that can make you money or help with your survivorship. There will be people who are impressed by it. And think of all the people that don't like you, and then you're the one that shreds the guitar like Jimi Hendrix, or you're the one that grows the biggest plant, or you're the one that cooks the best stew, or you're the one that does something that's out there, something that is good, something on which you're in your A game, and then think about how sad they'll be. That definitely helps me. The people who have opposed me and abused me throughout life have helped me arguably more than the people that actually like me in that sense. But that's because I tend to do like the cosmic rebel thing, and I want to rub it in their face by succeeding. Jim Morrison, the people who want to come up with POC and such want us to not speak English style, the language of freedom. They want us to speak the language of the UN, French. The language of the UN technically wouldn't be Belgian, actually. They're based in Brussels. The Belgians are behind it. I knew it. Just look at what they did to the fucking Congolese. BW, when are we going to get political dawn in the USA? I think that we're in false dawn already. Darius Harvey, always wondered, why do you live outside the USA? Oh, I'm married to a Dutch woman. So I've got things on 2 different continents. I would like to spend more time in the US and sort of go back and forth, but travel is a hassle with a young child. And of course, even if I'm making good money, I don't want to fly like 5 times a year back and forth because, the cost would mount up. So I'm also looking into property in the United States. It'd be nice to have a home base on both continents because then I can have 2 gardens. Aussie's robots. After seeing Veritas videos and what they learned on one date, think of all the info Swalwell's honeypot or Feinstein's driver must have acquired. Yeah, I know. Ben Dover, don't be French. Black Bull 77. Has anyone made animated memes yet of the Pfizer Flipout? If not, I recommend using the Benny Hill theme. Lol. Oh boy, would that be good. I imagine that is definitely meme derivative worthy. Thomas Ledford, glad to hear another correct take on involuntarily imprisoned peas. The frozen peas just don't measure up. Yeah, something about the freezing removes the flavor more than canning them does. I know they can get a little bit mushy when they're, put in a jar, but it's better than the alternative. Tiff, I'm writing a book too. Glad that people are feeling encouraged about keeping on. Mine will be on hydroponic gardening, coming soon. I'd be interested to read that. I haven't studied a whole lot about hydroponics, actually. Wolfman Jarl over on Rumble. Sticks, the Oz trailer wildlife ain't so bad, except the lizards in Parliament House. Also looking forward to replacing my Ouroboros mug from 3 years ago so I can clank. I would like to get new merch out, but first I have to contact a merch manager willing to sign a contract. Now, it's got to be under contract, or I'd have to handle it myself, or at least someone to help out with making cheap shit on Teespring or some similar site. Again, please do not send any more super chats because I have to do some other side and cook later too. Cheryl Petrie, how do you stay so positive? Hello from Florida. Well, you're in Florida, so you should be positive too. Like, here it's 35 degrees or something like that. It looks like Skyrim half the time. Actually, I stay positive by staying busy. I try to work. I realize there are others that rely upon that. I take care of my wife, my kid. I help my family, my parents out back in the United States. So I don't have time. I can't afford to be depressed. I literally don't have time to have negative feelings. It's pretty great, actually. Desiccated corpse. Google started hiding results and LinkedIn changed Jordan's profile after the video came out. Totally not sus if you're a conspiracy theorist if you question it. Yeah, I did notice that. Look up Project Veritas Pfizer right now on Google, and some of you will not see anything. Sparky, tomorrow is another day. There's always hope. Styx was in the depths of the abyss, but he hung on and now is the leader of the great Clank Nation. Yes, the largest nation on Pixel Planet. How can we go wrong? The memes of destruction. Hi, friends. Should we legalize dueling to end the culture war? Yeah, as long as two people want to consent to duel, whether it's to the death or not, I have no problem with that. As long as there's a public notary present to make sure that there was actually consent given, and the person didn't before they die say, no, wait, please, and something like that. You could get legalistic. Anyway, final news story here. How conservatives can get ESG right. Now, I'm going to stop you right here, and I'm not even going to bother going through the fucking moron article. There is no right way to do ESG. ESG is effectively, if a company wants investment and shit like that, they have to prove that they're woke through some combination of environmental activism, which means NIMBY, solar panels and shit like that. Governance, so supporting woke causes in general, or effectively being socialistic. They have to be woke. They have to be, they have to be of the school of Karl Marx or something like that, and then they'll get investment. It's a way to try to tame the corporate beast, try to tame the machine of evil capitalism. The machine of capitalism that literally built everything here, like Times Square, like the stock exchange, all of these things were built by capitalism. The real problem is that ESG can't be reformed. Simply taking it and then shifting, what specifically a company has to do in order to get investment doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't be any particular prescribed requirement. The only purpose should be, do I think I can make a return? I want to invest in a business. Where should I invest? Well, how much of an increase do I think you're going to get year over year? I don't care if your business is as cutthroat as possible. Hell, I like a good cutthroat business. You'll probably do better. That's the manner of corporate enterprise in the first place. It's the reason why we have boom times instead of just goddamn lulls. Those boom times are made by a bunch of cutthroats, a bunch of modern day fucking pirates. The lull times are created by the government's reaction to these things mainly. ESG should simply be banned. It shouldn't exist at all. Especially the environmental component. Well, this business is literally raping the third world country that it gets its minerals from. But they just built a headquarters in San Francisco, and look at all the pretty gardens. They've got a windmill out front. How woke? I think I'll invest with them. It's all a bunch of fucking goddamn horseshit. It's like when Apple makes its campus there in California, and it lines it with a bunch of solar panels, and they say, well, 40, 50% of all the energy that we need here is made with solar. But what are you doing over in China? You're enslaving 10-year-olds and putting suicide nets up outside of the upper floors of your factory so people can't kill themselves because they're getting fucked in the ass literally and figuratively by their boss. Working with a bunch of commies using slave mine North Korean minerals and shit like that. You're not woke. You're just pretending to be. You put the pride flag avatar up on Twitter for a single month out of the year. How wonderful. I think I'll invest with you. It's a bunch of horse shit. Anyway, no, conservatives can't get ESG right except by getting rid of it entirely. The concept of switching it around, what are you going to do? Like the business only gets money if enough of the employees are Christian? Enough of the employees happen to be male or something? You're taking wokeness and inverting it and hoping that it'll get better? It's the same principle. It's just different groups of people that you're going to be favoring or disfavoring for different reasons. It's bullshit. I don't believe in that either. I mean, having like a TradCon litmus test. Okay, your business has to have a certain number of white nationalists before it can get invested in or something. It's just the same kind of horseshit. And it would be considered farcical if you were to suggest that. Well, that's what ESG is. That's the thing. We've got a certain number of BLM employees in our company. We've got a certain amount of Antifa members. They don't do any work, but we hired them anyway, just so that we could get more investment. The investment pays us more than the shit that we're wasting on the Antifa members that refuse to leave the workers' lounge. All they do is they sit there and they masturbate the whole time. And that's basically what they would do, by the way. Anyway, to the nearly 6,000 people watching live, I have to go offline. I have to go to the store at some point here to get some stuff for dinner. Not sure actually what's for dinner tonight. I'll have to think about it. That's about all. Peace out.